The night my son looked me in the eyes and said, "I hear you crying every night," Mom, was the moment my world cracked open. I thought I had been protecting him. I thought silence was strength. But nothing prepared me for what came next. A confession that would shatter everything I believed about being a mother. Stay with me until the end to find out what really happened after that. Welcome to Vows and Betrayals, where we share the stories people are too afraid to say out loud. If you've ever carried a secret you thought no one would understand, drop a dot, or even a single dot in the comments. You're not alone. Thank you for being here. And if this story speaks to you, please consider subscribing so you never miss another voice like this. Now, let's step into the silence and hear what it's been hiding all along. Hey, I'm Evelyn. I'm 42 years old, and I live in a town so small that the snowplow drivers know everyone by name. It's called Coldwater, up in Maine. The kind of place where winters are long, silences are longer, and no one really asks how you're doing, unless you're bleeding. This morning, I'm sitting at the kitchen window with a cup of coffee that's already gone cold, watching snow drift down like it's trying to hush the world. I used to love mornings like this. Now I dread them. The quiet in this house isn't peaceful anymore, it echoes. My son Liam is upstairs. He just turned 18. He's tall like his father, with that warm brown skin and sharp jawline that always made people do a double take when we were out in public. His curls are always pulled back into a short ponytail, neat and intentional. He barely speaks lately, moves through the house like a ghost wrapped in a teenager's body. When I look at him now, I don't just see my son. I see the unanswered questions in his eyes. I see the weight he's been carrying since the day his father walked out. I've tried to be everything for him, mother, father, friend, protector. But lately, I've started to wonder if I've failed in ways I can't even see. Something's wrong. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. But it's there in the way he avoids my eyes, in the long stretches of silence, and the moments when I hear him walking past my room at night, pausing, then walking away. I used to think I knew my son, but now I'm not so sure. Liam was 10 when his father left. No long goodbye. No dramatic fight. Just a quiet Tuesday morning and an empty closet where his suits used to hang. He didn't cry. Not then, not after. He just sat on the porch swing that afternoon, legs too short to reach the floor, and stared out toward the gravel road like it could carry his father back home if he stared hard enough. That night, I lay awake in the dark, listening for sounds that never came. No footsteps, no door creak, just Liam breathing slow and steady in the next room, like he was pretending to be asleep, so I wouldn't worry. I remember whispering to the ceiling, "You have to be both now. Don't fall apart." From that moment, I did everything I could to hold it together. I took on extra clients, worked late into the night, cooked, cleaned, showed up at every parent-teacher meeting. I made our little house feel like a fortress. But even a fortress can feel cold when it's only got 2 people inside. Liam grew up quiet. He never acted out, never yelled, never rebelled. He helped with dishes, folded laundry, always offered to carry groceries. People used to call him such a good kid, and he was. Still is. But good doesn't mean okay. He never had many friends. He didn't join clubs, never asked to stay over at anyone's house. His teachers said he was bright, respectful, but always a little distant, like he was watching the world instead of living in it. I used to blame the divorce. Used to think maybe he'd open up again if I just tried harder. Maybe I wasn't reading enough bedtime stories. Maybe I was too tired to notice when he started slipping into his own silence. But now, with the way things have turned, I realize it wasn't about bedtime stories. It wasn't about trying harder. Sometimes the quiet hides more than just peace. Sometimes it's a warning, and I didn't hear it in time. It happened on a Wednesday night. The kind of night where the house is too quiet, the walls feel too close, and even the sound of the refrigerator humming feels like it's echoing your thoughts back at you. I was folding towels on the couch. Nothing special, nothing dramatic. Just me, a laundry basket, and a half-hearted sitcom playing in the background. Liam came down the stairs without a word, his footsteps soft, like he was trying not to disturb something sacred. He stood in the doorway for a moment, hands in the pockets of his hoodie, eyes low. Then he said it, just like that. "I hear you crying at night." My hands froze mid-fold. The towel slipped through my fingers and fell into my lap. He didn't say it to hurt me. He said it like a fact, like he'd been holding that sentence in his chest for years and finally let it out so it could stop burning him from the inside. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized he wasn't angry. He wasn't accusing me. He looked scared, like he didn't know what to do with what he'd said, now that it was out in the open. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "What do you say to that?" "I'm sorry. I didn't know you could hear. I didn't mean for you to." Instead, I just whispered, "Since when?" Liam shrugged. "Since always. Since Dad left." He stepped into the room and sat on the other end of the couch. There was a long silence between us, not heavy this time, just fragile, like it might break if we breathed too hard. "I don't know what's wrong with me," he said, eyes still locked on the floor. "Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in someone else's skin, like I'm watching myself from the outside, like I'm not who I'm supposed to be." I didn't move. My heart raced, but I kept my face calm. Every instinct in me wanted to ask 100 questions. "What do you mean? Is it your body? Your mind? Is it gender identity? Depression? Trauma?" But I didn't. I just let him talk. "I do things I don't understand," he said quietly. "And then I hate myself for them. I feel broken." I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay soft. "You're not broken." He didn't answer, just pulled his knees up to his chest and wrapped his arms around them like he was trying to fold himself into something smaller. And I sat there, not as the fixer, not as the mother with answers, just a human next to another human who was hurting. That night, I didn't cry. I just watched my son, my beautiful hurting boy, and realized I'd been so busy surviving that I forgot he was surviving too. A week after that night, I found the journal. It was wedged under Liam's pillow, just barely sticking out. I wasn't snooping. I was changing his bed sheets, the way I always did when he forgot. The spine caught my eye just enough to make me pause. I knew I shouldn't read it. But something about the way it felt in my hands warm, used like it had been opened 1,000 times, made me flip it open. The first page was empty. The second held one sentence. "Every time I do it, it's not about pleasure, it's to feel like I still exist." My chest tightened. I closed the book immediately, hands trembling, heart pounding so loudly I thought Liam might hear it from downstairs. I stood there frozen, staring at the sheets like they might fold themselves. I didn't know what it was. Maybe I didn't want to. But the sentence, it was enough. That night, I sat on the back porch, long after Liam went to bed, the cold biting into my skin through my sweater. The silence around me felt sharper than usual. I thought about calling someone, anyone, but who do you call when your child is unraveling and you don't even know the shape of the thread? The next day, I ran into Mary, our neighbor, from across the street. She's one of those older women who bakes too much and talks too loud, but somehow always says the exact thing you need. I don't know why I told her, but I did at least a version of it. She didn't flinch, just patted my shoulder and said, "Go find a still place. People talk when they feel safe." That weekend, I signed up for a meditation class in town. I thought maybe I'd find something resembling peace, or at least a minute of quiet that didn't feel like pressure. Instead, I met Samuel. He sat 2 mats over. Middle-aged, calm voice, the kind of person who doesn't fill silences, but holds them open like invitations. He didn't ask why I was there. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to explain. Samuel started showing up more often after that. At first it was subtle. He'd walk me to my car after class or join me for tea on the porch when Mary happened to drop by. Then it became regular. A Saturday lunch, a Tuesday dinner. He brought books, sometimes ones about stillness and grief, sometimes just his quiet presence. Liam noticed. He didn't say anything right away, just watched. The way his eyes lingered a second too long when Samuel laughed. The way his hands tightened around his fork when I poured Samuel another cup of coffee. Then one evening, Liam walked into the kitchen while Samuel and I were still sitting there talking about nothing and everything. His face was tight, his movements sharp. He didn't look at Samuel, just me. "Do you even care anymore?" he asked, voice quiet but pointed. I froze. Samuel shifted awkwardly, stood up. "I'll give you two some space." Liam didn't acknowledge him, just waited until the door clicked shut behind him. My mouth opened, but no words came out. Liam beat me to it. "You laugh with him," he said. "You light up. You don't even see it, do you?" "Liam?" "I'm still here," he said. "I'm still trying to figure myself out. And you're already moving on, with someone else. Like none of this ever happened." I wanted to tell him it wasn't like that I wasn't replacing anyone, that I was just trying to find a sliver of peace in a life that had been filled with shadows. But all I said was I didn't know it hurt you. He looked at me for a long time. His jaw clenched, his eyes red. "You didn't ask," he said. And then he left the kitchen, slow, deliberate steps, like every inch of the floor between us was a wound he had to step across. Later that week, Samuel came by again. I almost didn't let him in. But he just stood there on my porch, hands tucked into his coat, eyes soft with something that wasn't pity, just a kind of knowing. "I'm not here to intrude," he said gently, "but there's something you should know." We sat in the living room, the air still tinged with the aftertaste of that argument. He waited until I met his eyes. "I used to be a therapist," he said. "Family trauma mostly. I stopped years ago. I didn't ask why. I didn't have to." He answered anyway. "My daughter? She was 17. She hid everything too well. I thought I had time. I thought I was trained enough to see it." Silence dropped between us like a curtain. I didn't. And now, I live with that. He looked at me, really looked, and said, "You still have time." Then he handed me a card. "Dr. Elena Adler. Family therapy. I'm not the one to help you, but she can. She's the reason I made it out." I stared at the card for a long time after he left. Not because I doubted him, but because for the first time in months I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel: hope. The first session with Dr. Adler was thick with silence. Liam sat stiffly on the edge of the couch, hoodie, up, arms crossed like armor. I sat across from him, clutching a tissue I didn't need, at least not yet. The room smelled like lavender and books, warm but foreign. Dr. Adler didn't pry. She asked soft, open questions. Sometimes Liam would blink, sometimes shift, but he didn't speak. I kept glancing at him, hoping, but also fearing the moment he might. Week 2, the silence cracked. Liam answered with a shrug. By week 3, he whispered, I don't know. And Dr. Adler nodded, like it was the bravest thing she'd heard. Something softened after that. At home, Liam started spending more time outside his room. He picked up an old notebook and scribbled between meals. One afternoon, I saw a pamphlet on the kitchen counter, Beginner's Martial Arts for Teens, with a date circled. I didn't say anything, just made sure he had clean gym clothes. And I started unlearning. I stopped hovering at his door, stopped listening for every sigh. I let him come to me, or not. I started walking alone again, cooking in silence, letting the space between us breathe instead of trying to fill it. One night, Liam came home from class, sweat on his brow and a strange light in his eyes. It helps, he said simply, and that was more than enough. No breakthroughs, no dramatic hugs, just small, consistent moments. And the first time I exhaled without guilt in years, one evening, just as the sky melted into soft purples, Liam and I found ourselves on the porch. No plan, no conversation, just 2 mugs of warm tea and the hush of crickets in the distance. We hadn't sat like that in years. I glanced at him. He was taller now, stronger in the shoulders, but something about his eyes still reminded me of the little boy who used to climb into bed when thunderstorms rolled in. He caught me staring. What he asked, a small smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. I shook my head, smiled. Nothing. Just, you're still here. He looked down at his cup for a second, then back at me. I'm still figuring it out, he said quietly. But I don't feel like I'm drowning anymore. That one sentence cracked something open in me. Relief, grief, love all tangled together. I reached over, gently squeezed his hand. No dramatic words, no grand gestures, just stillness. And in that silence, I realized something powerful. Sometimes, the smallest exchanges carry the deepest healing. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. We don't have to be perfect to be present. We don't need all the answers to show up with love. Sometimes, just staying, just listening is enough. Healing isn't a straight line. It's messy, slow, and full of moments where you'll question everything. But if you keep walking, even when your legs shake, you'll move forward. If you've ever sat in silence, wondering if you're failing the people you love, you're not alone. Thank you for listening to my story. Tell me, what would you do if your child told you something that shook you to your core? Leave a comment below. Share one thought, one feeling, just one word if that's all you've got. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay close. There's more healing to come.